Ed, good to see you, Ed. All right, so people should be heading over to backstage, or the stage, should I say. My name's James Ski. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Confidence. Sales Confidence is focused on building the world's most valuable B2B sales community. So for the last 5 years, we've been focused on our mission to help salespeople at each stage of their career with their mindset, well-being, and performance. The reason why that matters to me as an individual, I'm diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which is a mood disorder. I've had high highs, low lows, and actually it's not because I'm full of confidence that I called it sales confidence. It's often because I've lacked confidence at times, and I wanted to unlock confidence so I could be more effective and more successful in my sales career. And I've been involved in early stage British SaaS startups, as well as spending 4 years at LinkedIn. Now, in that time, it's been amazing to see how this network has evolved. We've been running events for SDRs, individual contributors, and sales leaders for the last 5 years. So we've reached and impacted thousands and thousands of sales professionals. Pretty cool. As an example, Sophie, one of our speakers, spoke a few years ago when she was an SDR. Now she's transformed her career into an enterprise AE role, and we're going to be hearing from her later. And so that's really exciting to kind of see the progression that many individuals take. Just give me a heads up that you can see and hear me in the comments, and just give me a thumbs up just so I know. Hi, Rose. Hi, Ed. Yes, good to see you. Can you just let me know that I'm not speaking to myself, so we can bring in the speakers at the right time and have a good time. So the first thing to say is, there's over 150 of you on this call, so don't be shy on commenting and saying hello. Ultimately, you've decided to take some time out of your day to invest in yourself and invest in your career. And that's what we are motivated to support and encourage you to do. Ultimately, there is only, I believe, 3 months left of this calendar year. Many of you are in Q3 or 4, or you might even be into a new financial year. Many of you may be feeling right now that it's tough out there, and you're looking for some inspiration. So we've got 3 world-class speakers that we vetted in preparation. We're going to have Sarah Lappin, who's a senior account executive from Salesforce. She's going to be talking about going back to basics with account research and crafting a compelling POV. Jack Blackmore is commercial sales director at Clary. He's going to be talking about how to consistently succeed as a sales executive long term. And then we're going to wrap up with Sophie Peace, who is the enterprise account executive at Cognizant. She's going to be talking about moving up market, the highs and lows. What we will do is each of them will get 7 minutes to talk, and then we'll invite them back on to have a Q&A and answer your questions that you have. So let's make it super interactive, and do make comments as we're going through it, so it makes it interactive and interesting for everybody involved. And I'm sure the speakers can answer your questions as we go on. Also, I'm going to be announcing this year's top 50 individual contributors. So we've had over 1,000 nominations from your colleagues, teams, the sales confidence community, friends, etc. And then we've shortlisted that based on the nomination comments and feedback and experience. And if you want to kind of learn more about sales confidence and how it can help you, we can do that. So I'm just going to spend 5 minutes giving you an insight into how we're supporting sales individuals like you, so you know how you can get involved. I know we've got a number of members on the call today that can provide feedback. So just a big thank you to our sponsors. We wouldn't be able to run these events at low or no cost without them, so appreciate all their support and commitment. So to introduce our membership, in essence, if you're looking to develop yourself as an individual, or you're looking to become a leader in the next 12 months, or you're looking for a pay rise or promotion, Sales Confidence is here to kind of support you as part of our membership. Most of the reasons why people join is They're looking for advice on navigating larger enterprise deals. They want to understand if they should take the decision to move into leadership now or in the future. A lot of people are looking for accountability, peers that they can connect with. Ultimately, most of you that have decided to come on here, want to be surrounded by other growth mindset individuals, and that's what we provide as part of our circle. So if you want to accelerate your growth in B2B, increase your sales success, increase your earnings, be part of a valuable network, this membership has been designed for you. And when I thought about putting this together, I just basically wanted to provide elements that add enough value to you each week, but don't take away from your day-to-day responsibilities and goals. So we basically give you access to one-to-one mentoring, people that are 3 to 5 years ahead of you. You get one-to-one coaching from professional sales coaches. You get a peer group that you can join weekly to share challenges, what's going on in your business, where you need support. And then there's dinners and networking opportunities and weekly masterclasses that you get access to. You will basically get access to a dedicated peer group. Rod Amies was one of the top 50 individual contributors last year. He was the top global performer at Braze. He facilitates one of our peer groups for AEs, and you will get access to his facilitation as well as 10, 15 AEs on a weekly basis. And then we have the world's best sales leaders that you can pull on for mentorship and coaching. And then the final thing to just kind of lead you to is this is essentially a learning and development subscription. So many of you have personal development budgets. Many of you will get this covered by your company. If not, you can purchase it yourself. And there's 3 options. If you're looking for the coaching, the peer groups, and the mentorship, plus the dinners, you can look at our premium option. If you just want the peer group circles and the content, we've got professional. And if you just want to tap in and make use of the network and get inside, then we've got the accelerator option. And you can just go ahead and pick your option on the website. There's some bonuses if you sign up before 8 p.m. tonight. You'll get access to our next dinner. You'll get a coaching call with me. You'll get access to our WhatsApp group, and you'll get one-to-one coaching and additional. So that is me. That's just a quick overview. Thank you for your patience. Let's get into the speakers. So I've actually had lots of positive, incredible amount of feedback about this individual. So first up is Sarah Lappin, who is the Senior Account Executive at Salesforce. She's going to be talking about going back to basics with account research and crafting a compelling POV. She joined Salesforce more than 2 years ago, having found her way into sales in her early real estate career. She started at a cloud comms platform called LoopUp before moving into senior ad management company, Investors Digital, where she was promoted twice to enterprise client director. She's very much adapted to this post-pandemic way of selling, and she's going to be sharing some of her key insights and inspiration. Sarah, how are you?
I'm good, and that was very kind. I wasn't expecting such a detailed introduction, so thank you, James.
Well, we're here to set the scene. We can hear and see you. Kick off and go ahead with your 7 minutes. Thanks for opening up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So yeah, as you mentioned, today I'm going to be talking around going back to basics and focusing specifically on deep account research and how you can start to craft a compelling point of view. I guess before I get into it, I just wanted to set the scene and provide a little bit of context. And I'm going to tell you a personal story, which I'm hoping many people on the call can relate to. So like most people, I fell into sales over a decade ago, and I very much worked my way up the ranks. It's safe to say there's been a lot of learnings along the way. And prior to Salesforce, as James just mentioned, I was given the opportunity to lead 2 strategic accounts. At the time, they had really high potential, but were pretty much just doing kind of runway tactical work with us. It was in this role that I really experienced the impact of taking the time to get to know these customers, their respective industries, and really leaning in with expertise in a corner of their world that they really cared about. Admittedly, at the time, I had a team of brilliant consultants that really helped kind of build this with me. But over a 6 to 12 month period, I really saw the relationships transform from, I guess, where we were seen as a vendor to very much a strategic partner. And it was amazing for me to experience that shift where we gained access to new and more senior stakeholders. We were unlocking much bigger budgets, and we started to kind of really take more and more work from the competition. I then joined Salesforce at the tail end of the pandemic, and it was really when that kind of surge in demand for SaaS, as companies were really accelerating their digital transformation plans. I was really fortunate. I had a really successful first year, and anyone that knows about the ramp time in Salesforce, it was quite good going. So I finished the year really excited, but was told that my team was going to get disbanded. So at the time, I took another little leap of faith and agreed to join a newly forming team where we were building out a new industry vertical. So February the 1st hit, I'm eager to make an impact. I found myself sort of navigating this new role with a new team, with a new leader. I'm trying to kind of figure out what the go-to-market in this territory should be. Didn't really have any pipeline. So I was pretty much kind of starting from scratch in what at the time felt like a really uncertain market. What none of us foresaw at the time was that the tech downturn was about to hit. We started to see budgets tightening, layoffs starting to take off, and consumer confidence was really starting to decline. I sell MarTech, which presented a slightly interesting challenge, as we all know that marketing budgets tend to be among the first to get cut in a downturn. And then in parallel to this, we as sellers have really had to adapt to a new age of buyers. I think off the back of the pandemic, we've all experienced that kind of fundamental shift in terms of how B2B buyers actually want to buy. They've become more educated than they ever have been before. It's harder to get meetings because, let's face it, customers want to do their research before they have to spend time engaging with a sales rep. There's a really interesting report that Gartner pushed out on the future of sales, and I just wanted to kind of pull out a couple of interesting stats. So 99% of B2B buyers want to self-serve for parts of their journey, and only 17% of a buyer's time is actually spent with a sales rep during the cycle. I guess what this means for us as sellers is that every interaction that we have with a customer before we even meet them is more important now than it ever has been before. So circling back to the theme of today, how can we stand out in this landscape? And for me, it really boils down to going back to basics. So it's about being a student of your customer's business and learning as much as you can about the person that you're trying to engage, their company, their current scape, their landscape, so we can start to navigate their world more effectively. Now, I will point out it's not about becoming an expert in their business, but rather how you can help their business and the problems that you can solve for companies like them. So for me, this first step is really kind of identify your target set of accounts. And when you go into this level of depth, the rule of thumb is less is more. Focus more time on fewer accounts that align with your ideal customer profile and you've identified still have a need that can potentially be met. Start macro with the industry landscape. So what's in the news? What's their total addressable market? Try and establish those industry-specific opportunities and threats. And then it's about honing in on the company. So what's their web experience like? When you look in the annual report, read the message to shareholders, read it carefully and also a bit skeptically, and find out how the company's performed. Where does the leadership team want to take the company? What's the strategy to get there? Plow into the numbers. In my world, this could mean that they want to double their revenues in the next 5 years. Maybe they want to unlock new revenue streams like subscription management, or perhaps they've done a huge amount of M&A and there is a strategic initiative to consolidate all of their systems so that they can reduce cost. I guess what you're really trying to identify is what their desired end state could be. So you can tie it back to a corporate level initiative. And once you have this, it can really help you to start and form that initial value hypothesis on how you think you might be able to help. There's a whole host of goodness that you can find in customer reviews and the job ads they put out. This was one that I really only clocked onto recently, but when companies are trying to hire, they're typically trying to hire for a pain that they're trying to solve for. Again, just to give you an example in my world, perhaps they've put out a job ad because they need a new VP of growth marketing. Now, this could be tied directly to a growth initiative, or it could mean that they've got a customer acquisition cost. Maybe when I finally meet the CMO, I need to dig into whether they've got a challenge around that or what the metrics they are that they're looking to drive. So I do a lot of research trying to profile execs. We all know, particularly in the enterprise space, we've got bigger buying committees to cater to. There is the growing importance of the CFO. I got stung really badly on not involving a CFO earlier in a deal cycle last year. So beyond LinkedIn, you can find a wealth of information on podcasts, interviews, thought leadership they've authored. Who are they connected to? Do you have execs that are connected with them? Follow them on Twitter, find out what they're saying. And as I'm doing this, I'm literally writing direct quotes of things that they've said tied to an area that I think I might be able to help with. Stats are another great thing. Unearth these and extract them where you can, because they're things that you can either kind of play back down the line, or you can use as benchmarks as well. The next stage for me is really to consolidate the research and try and draw some conclusions on what I think their goals could be, identifying kind of any obstacles and opportunities for them. And I always kind of save a space of documenting kind of prompts and areas that I want to kind of dive into in more detail with. For me, this typically forms a whiteboard. I love Miro. It's living and breathing, and you can iterate it over time. You can also share it with your team so they can kind of start to get a feel for what this company is looking to achieve. The objective is really to build that initial point of view. So think about value stories that may resonate with this customer based on examples of where you've helped similar customers, just to prove that you've done your homework, and use it really to like kind of North Star to influence and guide you. One other thing, and I will wrap up in a moment, is putting yourself in the shoes of your customer's customer. So I work with front-end technology, and one of the tools that I use is mystery shopping. This is something that we should all be doing more of, and I don't see it enough. And you can use it at so many stages in the sales cycle. So you can use it as a hook in prospecting. What exec is not going to want to sit down to you and learn about your experience as their customer? I've used it in SICs, which is our innovation centers, where we get C-suite to come to our office. And off the back of presenting my experiences, I've had top-down referrals to execs that haven't been engaging with me. I've even used it to kind of kick off workshops with customers where I want to start them to kind of think a little bit differently than perhaps how they have previously thought around things as we go through different exercises. So I'm conscious of time. I have no idea how long I've been going for. So let me just summarize 3 key actionable takeaways. I think the market is tough for all of us right now, and we all have our own unique challenges. To stand out, let's just try and immerse yourself in your customer's world. Be a student of their business. Don't be afraid to dive deep. The groundwork that you do will lay a really strong foundation and opportunity to differentiate yourself. Next is on crafting your initial perspective. There is no right or wrong with this. Embrace a problem-solving mindset and really view the customer's situation through a thoughtful lens. Remember, the point of view is there so you can test it, and it will enable you to kind of show up in service to your customer and expedite your journey to really trying to understand them and the problems that you can help them with. And finally, it's about tying everything that you do back to how you can help. Every client is unique, but chances are you or one of your colleagues has helped a customer on a similar journey. My domain expertise is all around the challenges that high-tech companies have and how I can solve them. And the value stories that you have are really great to kind of add credibility and really provide that kind of tangible value to your customers. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for your engagement. And yeah, feel free if you want to kind of connect with me and continue anything.
Really appreciate it. Very well articulated, great structure to your talk, and it's never easy to open up an event. So thank you, Sarah. We'll get you back on after our final speaker for some Q&A. And so thank you for the good talk. Okay, wow, that was a great start. Looking forward to our next speaker. So up next, we've got Jack Blackmore, who is Commercial Sales Director at Clary. He's going to be talking about how to consistently succeed as a sales executive long term. So Jack's career started in sales more than a decade ago with cybersecurity platform Mimecast. After a short career break, which included time as a ski instructor in France, good for him, he returned to SaaS sales before joining SAP. There he spent 5 years in the small business and mid-market teams. He joined Clary back in 2020, where he smashed his annual quotas and helped them to go from strength to strength. Looking forward to this session. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, thank you, James. Very much appreciate the lovely introduction. You're very charming on stage. Very charming. But look, guys, thank you so much for taking the time out of your diary to learn a little bit about what we do. Look, today is going to be all around how we help each other in a tough environment to become better, but also to be mindful of what keeps us from achieving what we need to achieve. So look, as James just alluded to, I've been doing this quite a while. And through that, I've had some big ups and big downs, which James, you sort of alluded to at the start as well. And what I thought I would do is just maybe write that down, give you guys a bit of an idea of maybe some of the things that I've learned over the last 10, 15 years of selling, And maybe there's one or two things that you might take out of this that could be valuable for you at this point in time in your sales journey. So look, I'm going to share my screen. I've got a couple of slides to go along with this. So share screen. There we go. Right, folks. So you should be able to see the sales career framework slides. So I've broken it down into 3 areas. I've been fortunate enough to hit my annual quota quite a few times at different companies, be that at Mimecast, where I started my sales career, at SAP, where I ran one of the Concur mid-market divisions, and then when I joined at Clary as well, where we fostered and grew this team from a handful of individuals to quite a large organization across EMEA. And I've broken them down into 3 categories: the power of you, learning behaviors, and mindsets. And I want to dive into those a little bit as we go through. So the power of you. First and foremost, one thing I've learned over time is the power of listening. The power of actually taking a moment to understand the turn of phrase that your prospects are saying, using the types of wording that they're using on their websites, on their LinkedIn profile, as Sarah alluded to, on their Twitter accounts, on podcasts. Get to really understand the audience and become, as creepy as it sounds, a little bit of a chameleon. Now, this goes a long way, not only in terms of your internal and external communication, but also helps you become a sort of a partner, if you will, with those individuals as you're going through the sales cycle. The other one is escapism. Now, look, we don't live in a 9-to-5 anymore. It would be glorious if we did, I suppose. But the reality is it's not the world we live in. And so escapism is a big one. I'm not sure about the rest of the audience here, but for me, sitting in front of a computer screen all day is not good for my head. It's not good for my head. I need to escape. I need to get out. So look, do what you can and do what you must to put yourself in the best mental position to do what you need to do day in, day out. For me, it's all about exercise, a great way of releasing some of that burnout and that fatigue or annoyances that build up over time. Find what that is for you and really double down on it. Spend time, put time aside, be really, really strict about it because it will benefit you long term. On your why as well, behind why you've joined this business, why you're selling this platform, that's super important. When I was at Concur, I used to think that, look, I'm just selling an expense software. What does it really matter? Does it really have that much value to people? But actually, the reality was, if you ground it down and you looked at it from their perspective, on a Friday afternoon, they could still be in the office. They could have all those receipts in their bag, and they could be going through trying to expense those, put them through on a platform, and speak to their managers about what they are and are not allowed to put through. When in reality, that time, that effort, could be spent with their family, with their friends. And look, it might sound a bit, wishy-washy, but the reality is that made me believe in what I was selling. And now I'm in a fortunate position where I'm selling to senior sales folks, CROs, RevOps leaders. I can really lean in. I can understand what they're doing, the stresses that they have in life. And that really helps me establish the why in what I'm selling at Clary and makes it that much more believable. And then the framework. Look, this took me a little while to actually really understand myself. But as a bit of a shoot at the hip kind of fella, I didn't really quite understand why I would need a framework. But actually being really strict about my day-to-day has been incredibly helpful, not just for myself, but my peers and my colleagues. It keeps me accountable. It helps me, my SDRs, my revenue operation teams, my managers, whoever it might be, sit beside each other with confidence and know exactly what we're doing day in, day out. It also reminds me to do important things like you can see on the screen there, which is at the end of the day, I try to put 10 minutes aside where I can actually take a moment and say, cool, what actually worked? What went well? What did I learn? How did I help the team? And when I was building out the team in EMEA, that was hugely important. And also set a precedence for tomorrow. Get ahead. I'm not saying I've done everything for tomorrow, but I'm doing the majority of what I need ahead of time so that I don't stress about what I need to create early in the morning. So that's the power of you. The next one is learning behaviors. Business acumen is hugely important in this world. As Sarah alluded to earlier on, it's probably the toughest moment for a lot of us in terms of selling. So when we do get in front of a customer or a prospect, we need to be able to build that trust. We need to be seen as a champion's trusted advisor and earn a seat at the table with execs and seniority within those businesses. Our CEO at Clary, Andy Byrne, talks about becoming masters of revenue. And we share proactively as teams, as individuals, from the top down, great insights, podcasts, Twitter, books you should be reading, whatever it might be to hone our craft. And we actually put time aside in our meetings as teams to go through some of those learnings so that we can deploy that in our own outbound messaging. Stakeholder management is also a huge one. I didn't really understand the value of stakeholder management from an internal perspective, certainly understood it from external. I've been hugely fortunate to sell to the house of the CTO. I've been selling to the CRO and the CFO. But get to learn who those individuals are, what really works for them, what really is their sort of top of mind focuses over the next 6 to 12 months. Because as Sarah alluded to, if you don't engage someone like the CFO as early as possible in your pursuits, you're going to fall flat. And if you're able to then reach out to them with a message that really resonates and hold their attention with confidence, you give yourself a ton of option to actually get that through the door. It's about making sure that, again, you're seen as a sponsor of that business and you really understand what they're trying to achieve. But leverage that insight internally as well. You're going to hit your head against a bloody wall half the time trying to get stuff done inside a business. Use your knowledge, get to learn about the teams internally, because it'll be super valuable when you talk to deal desk, legal, whoever it might be, to be able to support you. They're much more likely to turn around and go, actually, you know what, I'll put an arm around you, I'll help you, I'll get that done, if you're able to understand the world they live in. Mentorship's also a big one. And we all have managers, that's all well and good. And some of them are fabulous. Some of them are, sticklers for the tiny details, whatever it might be. But mentorship's huge. Steve McKenzie was my mentor when I was at Mimecast, continues to be during my time throughout my sales life. And he's always been there to be able to really listen as a mentor and not a manager. Understand what my challenges are. Allow me to sort of air my frustrations and generally sort of lean on his experience to get through different situations. And the last one is mindset, guys. So look, I've, as I alluded to, been very fortunate in my sales career. And some of that might be down to hard work and graft, but in reality, a lot of it comes down to my mindset. And that is that, look, I'm not always going to be the top of the ARR leaderboard. I'd love to be. I'm sure my wife would as well, but I'm not always going to be. So what I look to do is look for the little wins where I can. And that is simply by having that grit and urgent determination. And that might be, well, if I'm not going to be top of ARR, I can certainly be top of outbound. I can be top of ARR created or surfaced. And I can certainly be seen as a voice to help the team grow and foster if they have any questions or concerns. So all about sort of showing up day in, day out. Fostering growth is another one. I'm sure a lot of the audience here has been in the shoes of SDRs. I was an SDR when I started, 2 years in a basement in King's Cross, which is as glamorous as it sounds. And one thing I had that really resonated with me was a manager and a team member who always looked after me. And he supported my journey into becoming an AE. In fact, I then ended up shadowing him for 6 months. Do the same for your SDR and your marketing team. Look after them. If you provide them with what they need to foster and grow, to rant and rave, whatever it might be, you'll typically get a much better working environment, a willingness to do whatever it takes to help both of you achieve your numbers. And the last one, and you can ask James this one, I'm incredibly good at being stupid. I think it's probably my best trait. But the reality is, I love being the stupidest person in the room. If I'm doing that, I'm surrounding myself with the right kind of people. I want to be the best middleman. I want to pull in the relevant individuals to get the job done. And that's a skill that takes time, but learn to be uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, because trust me, it will go a long way when you bring in the players that can actually get shit done. And this situation where we're selling to different stakeholders, things are getting a lot tougher. Just have that humility to actually take a step back and bring in the individuals that are going to help you. That's all I had for today. James, if there was, I'm happy to field any questions, but I know we have a Q&A session a bit later on.
Amazing, Jack. Thank you for that framework. And clearly, you've done a lot of self-awareness work, which I think is such an important trait. I was talking to our membership yesterday about, this word's quite strong, but being an enlightened leader, right? And what does that mean? I think a large part of that is self-awareness and actually understanding yourself, understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, where you need to improve, how you support others. So Look forward to digging that into the questions, and we'll get some Q&A at the end of the last talk. Thank you for that, Jack. So up now, our final speaker for today, before we go into the Q&A and before we announce this year's top 50 individual contributors. So Sophie is Enterprise Account Executive at Cognizant. Literally less than 2-3 years ago, she was an SDR at Cognizant, and she's gone through every stage of her career and progressed rapidly to her enterprise role. And she's going to be talking about that move to upmarket that many people are excited to do or in the pathway to do. So moving upmarket, the highs and lows. She's currently responsible for being an enterprise AE at Cognizant, which is the world's fastest AI sales intelligence and data platform. She made the switch into SaaS 3 years ago, and she hasn't looked back. She was also featured in the top 50 lists the last 2 years running. And so she's a top performer and has some fantastic knowledge and experience. Sophie, the stage is yours.
Hey everyone, thank you James, and thanks Jack and Sarah as well. There were some really actionable takeaways, and clearly you both have a huge wealth of experience to offer. I'm going to be sharing my story on moving from a commercial AE role into an enterprise landscape, something that's very relevant for a lot of sales reps who are maybe a bit nervous about making their next career move. I speak to a lot of my friends in sales all the time who are a little bit nervous about making that move up market. So I hope today to add a little bit more clarity for anyone who is in a similar position, and it's definitely worth having a thought about whether it's the right move for you. Currently 6 months into the enterprise role, and I've already been on quite the journey. Today, I'm going to share some of my highs and lows over the last 2 quarters and bracket them into 6 key learnings for everyone to take away today. Number 1 is really about understanding the landscape. So how we work at Cognizant in the enterprise space, we have a set list of accounts to go after every quarter. These then get fixed and we're not able to change them at all, or at least very easily after that. So we do this because sales cycles can be anywhere from 6 to 12 months, and that's probably being quite conservative. Moving from commercial to enterprise was a bit like going from running a couch to 5K to then signing myself up for the London Marathon. So it was pretty overwhelming. In commercial, obviously deals are closed quite swiftly. Relationships are a little bit more transactional. In the enterprise space, I'd say the sales cycle is much more elongated. Decision-making typically involves a lot of different stakeholders. Nurturing those relationships is going to be the key to success. So I would say the actionable item here is to really research your prospects. And Sarah mentioned a lot of different ways in which you can do that. Understanding their industry, challenges, goals, that knowledge is going to be your foundation in being able to craft more compelling business cases and personalize your pitch depending on what stakeholder you're talking to. My second point of advice would be on building relationships. So enterprise is about building trust and rapport. It's about understanding the client's business on a deeper level, empathizing with their pains. It might be that the pain changes from month to month. It might be that every stakeholder has something different that's important to them. So it's offering a solution that goes beyond we've got the fastest, tallest, biggest, best, whatever you want, and making the transition into painting a bit more of a fuller picture, long-lasting relationships, and really building the trust of what we would call a champion at Cognizant. If anyone's familiar with MEDDIC reference here, for anyone who has that as a sales methodology. but it's taking the time to listen actively and ask those open-ended questions. My tip here would be prioritizing relationship building activities within your daily schedule. So actually crafting out time and allocating time specifically for multi-threading, messaging, end users of platforms, and actually spending time with your champion to get to know what's going to help them move the needle and what you can do to help. The next point would be mastering the art of patience. So enterprise deals are going to take time. You kind of have to learn to be patient and resilient. Rejections and delays are just part of the parcel. And instead of getting a bit arsy, you just have to take it on the chin. What's crucial is obviously how you're going to respond to those challenges. So using those setbacks as just an opportunity to learn. I've got quite familiar with just identifying what might have gone wrong and trying to adapt and persevere through that and change my way of thinking. It's important to always have a growth mindset, embracing those challenges as chances to get better and not taking them as personally. And also making sure you're sharing those experiences and those learnings with your peers. At Cognizant, we have what we call bi-weekly enterprise knowledge shares, which is a global concept. So we have teams from the US, Europe, and that's really a chance for us to share any learnings from that week, what's been going right, what's been going wrong. Sometimes it's just an excuse to have a rant about the deals in the pipeline at the moment that are maybe slowing us down. My second point, which kind of ties into that, is making sure you're collaboratively selling. So in enterprise, it's really important to not just do things alone. You aren't just selling a product, you're actually selling more of a partnership. It's important to work closely with all of your resources. So with your marketing team, with your product team, with your CS team, leverage their expertise to help you build those business proposals. What I often do is bring them into early stage meetings if I know that there's something in particular that the prospect might be worried about, i.e. bad customer service from a previous supplier that they've used. And so bringing on a CS rep can just help to add confidence into that, and actively involving them throughout the sales process. So if you haven't already, or if you aren't doing it already, it's a good idea to open up those communication channels with your colleagues, because they're going to be fundamental to your success if you're looking to move upmarket into the enterprise. The next point would be continually learning, and this goes back to what Jack was mentioning earlier. Don't be afraid to look like the idiot. Sales is always evolving. New technologies, trends, competitors are always emerging constantly. To do well in enterprise, you have to enjoy that process of learning all the time. I make sure I stay updated with industry news, attending webinars, reading relevant blogs, engaging in networking events, just putting yourself out there. I'm guessing that with everyone on the call today, you're probably open to new learning opportunities. So I would recommend just allocating more time into learning in your weekly schedule as well, and treat it with a similar importance as your client meetings. And then lastly would be more in terms of the day-to-day. So making sure that for all of your accounts, you're creating a strategic account plan. In enterprise, every account is very unique. So you need to implement a strong account planning strategy, working with any SDRs that you work with, or if you're solo selling, making sure that you have a good layout of what that account looks like, identifying different stakeholders, understanding what their role is in the deal making process, mapping out influence, and tailoring your approach to each of those. So investing time in creating those detailed account plans and then regularly reviewing those at every stage of the buying journey as you take different calls, and adapting them to as your understanding of that company gets better. Just to tie everything up, obviously the transition is going to be quite a big one. It's probably the biggest change I've had in my career so far. Luckily, I've got quite a lot of very, very supportive and team members, and also just a really, really good enablement function to keep me going. But it's definitely a journey of both professional and personal growth. But I would say, just to leave it on, it's not really just about the deals that you're closing, but it's also about the relationships internally, but also externally that you're building, because those are what's going to bring you the best value long term. And there's quite a lot of cash to be made in the enterprise sector, so that's also a good incentive.
Absolutely. Money matters in this game. Let's not be shy. Thank you, Sophie. That was fantastic. So I'm going to invite the other speakers up, Sarah and Jack. This is a chance for you to ask questions. That's what we're all about in the in this profession. So don't be shy. Each of you, like, this is fantastic because it kind of talked about the different stages of like the enterprise journey. Covered mindset. We covered like some of the core principles that you need to think about as a rep. What the first question that came to mind, and a couple of people kind of said to me, to be honest, like in responses to my message right now about this event, that they're you know, a couple of people couldn't make it today because they're really feeling the market condition pressure right now. And I was just wondering, you know, what's your general sentiment of like what it's like in your market right now in terms of the kind of market conditions and therefore the kind of pressure on you to perform? Who's going to take that?
I don't mind jumping in if you want, James.
Go for it.
Yeah. I think it would be naive to say that there's no business out there at the moment that isn't experiencing headwinds. I think, you know, last few years have arguably been a time where we've kind of reaped a lot of the rewards in our hard efforts that we put out there. Right now, it is difficult, but it's difficult for everybody. There are going to be inevitably peers or folks within your network that are doing well. And I guess my thoughts are, and everyone's might be different, but it's like I've got enough humility to know when I'm not doing the right thing. I've been doing this for a while. It gets to a point where sometimes you need to take a step back, and to Sarah's point, actually go back to basics. Start speaking to some of the newer guys in the business, guys and girls in the business, see what they're doing that's slightly different. Try and learn from the audience around you, but also don't panic so much. There's always going to be points in your sales career, irrespective of you being brand new or super tenured, right? You've got to learn how to sort of remove that pressure. And for me, as I alluded to earlier on, that goes into that mindset piece. I choose to remove the pressure by going and doing other things. If I can get out in the evening and just go for a run to remove my head from that space that would otherwise be cluttered up with annoyance, I'll go and do so. And I'll sit down with people that have just joined the business, to folks that have been with the business for years, or even Steve, my mentor, and just say, look, what would you do differently? Am I being silly? Am I not doing the right things? And sometimes it's a really obvious answer. So, yeah.
Fair points. Sophie, Sarah?
I'm happy to go next. I think the fundamental is tough times don't last, but tough people do. I think if you make sure that it all goes back to tying everything to what your customer cares about, we've all had to pivot our messaging. 2 years ago, I was talking to companies around growth and how we can grow their revenues. Everything now is around how we can help them consolidate, reduce cost. It's about being really cognizant of the different people that you're engaging with and what is important to them, and being really diligent in your process. So Sophie spoke around MedPick. Do you have a champion? Do you have an economic buyer? Is there a compelling event that you're working towards? If you can't answer some of those questions, go back to the drawing board and revisit your opportunity and make sure that you're really qualifying it hard. Sit down with your leaderships, bring other people in, get their points of view on your deal, expose it where you need, and make sure that you're just kind of doing all of the right things, and success will come.
Amazing. Sophie?
Yeah, I think same as what Sarah and Jack have said, talking about long-term relationships and building partnerships as opposed to short-term, making sure that all of your messaging is around being more support focused, customer focused. And what I found really useful, and I'm doing it or trying to do it in every single sales cycle that I have now, is making sure that everything is watertight. So as I'm going through an evaluation, I'm really making sure I get all of the metrics previously so that I can help my champion or the stakeholders be able to build a better business case internally that isn't going to get a nose turned up when they see the price, because you've already convinced them of the value. So it's making sure that we help our customers or prospects with that buying journey and make it as easy for them as possible to buy.
Absolutely. What about this point around access to the CFO? I see lots and lots of commentary around that. CFOs must be extremely busy right now, getting involved in all these evaluations. Just wondering if there's been any approaches or tactics that you've had to employ, how you've experienced access to the CFO. Any comments around that? Who wants to take that first?
I can go, having been burnt hard on it last year. I typically will sell to a CMO, and the marketing community and the sales leaders tend to be kind of my buying group. And in a deal that I worked on last year, I was sort of using my champion, going through her to make sure and understand if everything was being spoken at board meetings, if the CFO had awareness of the project. We were preparing for a meeting with him if he knew about it. She was telling me all of the right things. We got into the most awkward meeting of my career where he just shut it down. It was like, you've been selling to the wrong person. I haven't been involved. So I think it is really just pressure testing your champions, understanding when they last bought and invested in a project like this, what happened? Who do you have to get involved at what point? Are you going to be presenting, or are they going to be presenting on your behalf? What do they need from you? And just really getting into the detail and mapping out and asking the hard questions to understand what that sign-off process looks like. Because if you don't do it up front, it can get to a really tricky ending for you. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on advice.
Good advice. Jack?
Yeah, I completely agree with Sarah. I've been in that position where I've waited far too long and then it's bitten me in the proverbial. So it happens to us all. I think when it comes to the CFO, Sarah's point around utilizing your champion is incredibly important. Really get to know the type of CFO you're dealing with. There's some out there that are actually very commercially focused. There are some that sit in front of their P&Ls and do nothing else. It really is about understanding the type of CFO you're dealing with, getting to understand their mannerisms, the type of person they are, use your champion as well as you can. And then on the back of that, when you are reaching out to them, maybe listen to your champion and understand what other businesses have done successfully when reaching out to that CFO. If there are other tools that have been sold that have resonated with that CFO, and other things you can replicate or copy. Maybe even have a look at their LinkedIn and see if there's any CFOs that are in your network that are at clients, for example. I use a tool called Highlight This, for example, that allows me to go onto LinkedIn. And if I can see their connections, I can then see how many of those are actually at clients. And then subsequently, that allows me to ask the question internally, hey, is this CFO at business A, B, and C actually using the platform? If they are, how happy are they? And that might be another route to getting into the CFO outside of you reaching out yourself. So yeah, just my 2 cents.
Very good. Nikhil has asked a question about standing out. I think there's a general challenge in terms of the amount of like competition for your prospects' attention, right? It's extremely difficult to get in front of prospects now more than ever. Just any approaches or anything that's been effective for yourselves recently?
I can take this one first if you like.
Sure.
I think I would echo that prospecting is getting way, way tougher than it ever was before, especially if you're looking at enterprise companies who, if you're trying to email directly, they have such large or high firewalls that chances are they're probably just going straight into their junk box. So I'd say what our team has been doing recently is messaging around Microsoft Teams. So actually just doing direct outreach via Teams, also WhatsApp messaging. It's trying to kind of think outside the box of the norm. The other thing that some of the team are doing is you can, I don't know if anyone else knows this, but if you're connected with someone in the same group on LinkedIn, you can actually directly message them through normal LinkedIn and not through LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So trying to think outside the box of what other people aren't doing. And again, coming back to creative prospecting, making sure all of your messaging is personalized and trying to stand out from the crowd.
Any other suggestions?
I've got two. So one that I use a lot, and I'm very fortunate at Salesforce to have an amazing network of incredible people that are also well networked. For me, warm referrals into people they know is incredible, and it is accelerated so much for me. Really do leverage your execs and their relationships, find out how they know those people. If they've got a relationship, get them to do the warm introduction, because it really can speed things up. And the other thing that you can start to play around is give before you take. So we have, I'm sure your companies do lots of nice events. You've got some other kind of thought leadership that your marketing team will have authored, industry specific stuff that might be valuable to them. So share it with them, and you're kind of top of mind. You're not asking for anything, but oh, Sarah's the one that's been sharing kind of helpful information on things that are important to me. So yeah, there are a couple of quick ideas.
Nice, very cool. We'll ask this as the final question because I'm just wary of time and I want to get onto the top 50 announcement, and so let you all get back to your day job or wrap up the day. Any specific tactics for when a deal slows? You know, so you're just stuck at like waiting for approval, or you're stuck at a stage. How have you been able to kind of progress a deal?
I think one really quick thing that I do is asking my stakeholders, say my VPs, my sales directors, to reach out to either their director or someone on the same level, just to open up alternate levels of communication. So just a really quick message, either via LinkedIn, email. It just helps to make the conversation flow.
I'd agree with Sophie just for that point. It's worked massively. Take myself out of the situation, get someone like a C-suite individual at my business to reach out, especially if I've already done that to begin with. They can have that quite frank conversation, going back to sort of being the middleman in this situation, let them do the work to help me understand where we are. Equally, if I've built up enough of a relationship with the champion, which is something I try to do as much as possible, I'll make myself uncomfortable so that they feel comfortable to tell me the truth. I've got no qualms of being like, look, I'm not entirely sure if I'm putting too much pressure on you or I'm not doing a good job, and whatever it might be, whatever it takes to make myself feel a bit weird. They often then fill the gaps and tell me the reality. And that's been something that's been pretty powerful for me.
Awesome. Well, look, it's been fantastic to explore this. I'm really grateful for your contributions and your thought leadership and sharing. I no doubt that you'll have a lot of messages in your LinkedIn. The video recording of this will be available next week up on YouTube, so we'll get that shared and circulated. You also get an email about the membership after this call, so if you want to sign up to that, you can just do it online or drop me a note and I can give you more information. So a round of applause, virtual round of applause for the speakers today. Thank you very much, all of you. Great contributions. And now I'm going to just pop you backstage while we wrap up with this year's top 50 announcements. It's worth a couple of you hanging around. So the process that we go through on this is basically, since the summer, we go out to the community, go out to the network, and we request everybody in the network to nominate and vote for who they believe should be featured in the top 50. Now, obviously, every individual contributor out there has different performance metrics, but what we tend to look at is the anecdotal kind of feedback about individuals. We look at the number of nominations, then we kind of look at the experience and history, and then with our own like a bit of a kind of science methodology that we've built over 5 years, we then kind of create this shortlist. So again, shout out to the sponsors that allow us to make this happen. And here is this year's top 50. I'm just going to rapidly go through it. Literally for the next 48 hours, you'll see this all over LinkedIn. But for everyone that's still on the call, let's just go through the announcement. And if you see someone you know, give them a shout out. Oh, it's the wrong presentation. 1 second. The suspense. Okay, 1 moment. I'm just going to get the correct slides up. Okay, now we're good to go. Okay, here we go. So this year's top 50, we've got Luke from Monday.com, Alex from Avon, Vishan from Own Backup, Lily from Clavio, Spyrus from Avon, Rebecca from Hootsuite, Sasha from Clavio. We've got Emma from Plan Day, Chris from Okta, Ali from Mixpanel. At number 40 to 31, we've got Will from Hedoku, Aku from Planful, Catherine from Iterable, Richard from Log My Care, EJ Harris from Playable, Sarah from Normative, Ben from Hedoku, Jessica from Lunio, Alex from Cobra, Luke from Verti, 30 to 21, Ainsley from Centra, Alex from Zoom Info, Emily from Tessian, Ben from Fortnet, Jonah from Unfido, Reese from Incident.io, Louis from Twilio, Sam from Clary, Ellie from Adobe, Mike Jones from Iterable, 20 to 11, Pierce from Bird Eye, Amanda from Tableau, Isaac from Demandbase, Becky from Jiminy, Charlotte from Slack, Clayton from Atlan, Priscilla from Braze, Yasmin from GitAccept, Steve from Asana, Nicola from Demandbase, and then the final 10 is Mike from Bird Day, Sophie 9, our speaker today from Cognism, Aaron from Collabora 8, Millie from Zoom at 7, Danielle from 6 at Domo, 5. So this year's top 5 individual contributors are 5, George from SalesLoft, 4, Simon from Figma, 3, Ali from Zendesk, 2, Joe from Multiverse, and this year's number 1, who was one of our speakers today, in fact, is Sarah Lappin. So big congratulations from everyone that's going to get featured. As I said, there will be huge announcements across all our channels over the next 2 days. All this recognition is about elevating salespeople and the sales profession. If you want to get nominated next year, you basically need to spread the good word so you get into the shortlist. And I'm looking forward to our next event. Those of you that want to come to an in-person event, on the 24th of October, we've got our Money Matters in-person event, which is going to be at St. James's Place. That's going to be very exclusive, only 50 people, only 50 seats. And then on the Wednesday, we've got a Women in Sales event, which is at Funding Circle's offices on the 25th. So look out for those. There'll be loads of comms, but thank you everybody for getting involved. Appreciate all your support. Massive respect to the speakers for their preparation and commitment. And good luck, everybody, for the rest of the year. I will see you soon. And if I can help you in any way, just ping me a message, LinkedIn, email, WhatsApp, whatever's easiest for you. Sarah, actually, while you're there, did you even hear?
Oh, dear.
So you've just been announced as the #1 individual contributor in the UK 2023. How does it feel? Let's go live.
Oh, it feels amazing. I didn't even know I was up for it.
So there you go. Well, listen, there'll be more details coming your way in an email about how we processed it. There'll be lots of publicity around it, lots of fun. But thanks very much for your contribution and enjoy the moment.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good evening all. Bye-bye.
Bye.